Today we're hitting on something we've all probably thought about. What really makes someone successful?
Right. Is it that, spark of passion we're always told to chase?
Or is there something more to it? You
Yeah.
know the advice. Follow your passion and you'll find your way.
A really tempting idea, isn't it? That feeling that if you just discover that one thing,
Yeah, that one thing that really lights you up.
then everything else will just like fall into place effortlessly.
It is tempting. But let's really dig into that. What if that's not the whole story?
What if there are other factors?
Hmm.
Maybe less glamorous ones.
Exactly. That's what we're exploring today. We've been looking at some material you shared, including an article called C'était Autant.
Which translates from Arabic to the posted text.
And it really focuses on the passion myth, why commitment matters more than passion.
Mm-hmm.
So our aim here is to kind of get to the heart of this, understand why commitment, discipline, maybe just plain hard work.
Might actually be the real drivers, more so than passion alone.
Right. And for you listening, if you want to get smart on this without getting, bogged down.
Yeah, without all the overwhelm.
This is your quick route to understanding why maybe this whole passion idea, well, it might not be the full picture.
Okay, so let's start with that allure, the pull of passion.
What's interesting is how powerful that initial feeling is. We've all felt it, right?
Oh, definitely.
Mhm.
That huge excitement about a new project, a new idea.
And you just assume, naturally, that feeling's going to stick around, that it'll keep you motivated.
Forever. Like it's this constant fuel source.
But, as our sources point out, feelings, they're temporary, aren't they?
Fundamentally, yeah. That initial spark. It can and often does fade.
So passion by itself, it just doesn't get you through the long haul. Or the tough spots.
And this connects directly to that 2019 Stanford study that was mentioned.
Ah, yes. Tell us about that.
Well, it found that, over 75% of people believe success comes down to finding your passion. That's a huge majority.
Wow. Yeah.
But here's the kicker. The people who were most focused on finding and following that passion,
What about them?
they actually gave up more easily when things got difficult
Really? Why?
because they expected it to always feel easy. This is their passion, right? So it should feel good all the time.
Ah, I see. So when the hard work inevitably kicked in.
They quit. They thought, this doesn't feel like passion anymore, so it must not be the right thing.
Right. Passion was supposed to equal perpetual ease. That's a key insight then, relying just on that emotional high.
You're kind of setting yourself up for disappointment, for frustration when it gets tough.
Which leads us naturally to commitment.
Exactly. The sources define commitment as, sticking to something, even when it's hard.
Like working when you're tired. Or bored.
Or scared, even. Facing setbacks. It's showing up regardless,
So it's the real difference maker, not just working when you feel like it.
but doing it consistently. Day in, day out, whatever your mood.
The sources draw a pretty clear line there, don't they? Between just being passionate in bursts.
And being truly committed. And they argue it's the committed ones who really win in the end, who achieve the big things.
And this ties into Angela Duckworth's work on grit, right?
Absolutely. She talks about grit being essentially passion plus perseverance over the long term.
Okay, so passion isn't totally irrelevant, but it needs that staying power.
Precisely. And what's really fascinating is her research suggests grit is a better predictor of success than IQ or natural talent,
What, even just passion on its own?
or even just passion on its own.
Wow. That really flips the script, doesn't it?
It does. One study mentioned shows students with higher grit scores, get this, were 60% more likely to graduate.
60%. Compared to who?
Compared to students who are equally talented, had similar IQs, but just less grit.
Okay, that's huge.
Right.
So key insight there. Grit, that combo of passion and perseverance, is a major, major predictor of success. More than we might think.
It really seems to be. And to make this more concrete, the sources bring up some really powerful real-world examples.
People whose commitment clearly drove their success.
Exactly. Rather than just some fleeting interest. Let's talk about Michael Jordan.
Okay. MJ, basketball legend. Hard to argue with that example.
But the sources remind us he was cut from his high school team.
Right. I forgot about that. Cut from the team. Imagine.
That's a huge setback, especially early on. Could easily make you doubt everything.
He could have just said, well, I guess basketball isn't my thing, not my passion.
And that would have been the end of the story. But he didn't.
He committed. He doubled down.
He trained like crazy, worked specifically on his weaknesses,
Yeah.
became relentless.
And there's that quote the sources included. Something like,
I've failed over and over and over again in my life. and that is why I succeed.
Powerful. So his greatness wasn't just innate talent or passion, it was built.
Built on years of commitment,
Yeah.
years of that often grueling work.
Okay, great example. Who else?
The second one is from a totally different field. J.K. Rowling.
Harry Potter's creator, another household name.
Again, her path was anything but easy. The sources mentioned she got rejected by 12 publishers.
12. That's a lot of rejection to face.
And think about her circumstances then. Single mother, unemployed, on welfare.
Yeah, the pressure must have been immense. It would have been so easy to just give up on that story.
To think, maybe this writing thing isn't my path after all.
But she didn't. She persisted.
She stayed committed to the story, to the writing itself, despite all the hardship, all the no's.
And look where that commitment took her, one of the most successful authors ever.
Absolutely. It underscores that commitment factor again.
So these stories really drive home the point. But they also highlight the potential downsides, the dangers of only focusing on passion.
Right. The sources outline a few key risks here.
What's the first one?
Well, waiting forever. People can spend years just searching for the passion.
Trying a bit of this, a bit of that.
Exactly. Dabbling.
Yeah.
But they quit as soon as it gets difficult or isn't immediately fulfilling.
So they never stick with anything long enough to actually get good at it.
Pretty much. They never build real skills because the search itself becomes the focus, not the building.
And that constant search, it sounds exhausting, frankly.
And potentially unproductive. Think about that Deloitte survey mentioned.
What did that find?
Only about 13% of the workforce feels genuinely passionate about their jobs.
Only 13%. That's surprisingly low.
It suggests that the vast majority of people, many of whom are successful and fulfilled, are operating on something other than pure passion. Likely commitment, meaning skill.
Interesting. Okay, what's another risk?
Giving up too soon. We touched on this, but it's crucial.
Because getting good at anything takes time and effort.
Exactly. There are always going to be phases that are boring or frustrating or just plain hard, even in fields you generally like.
Doesn't matter how much initial enthusiasm you had.
Right. And if your only fuel is that initial spark, you're going to run out of gas when you hit those inevitable plateaus or difficult stretches. You'll just quit.
Makes sense.
And the last risk.
Missing out on great opportunities.
How so?
Well, if you're only willing to pursue things you're already passionate about, you might overlook something potentially amazing just because it doesn't immediately grab you.
Precisely. Sometimes deep interest, even passion, develops later. It comes after you put in the work, gained some skill, started to see results.
So you shouldn't necessarily dismiss something just because you don't feel that instant spark.
That's the idea. An initial lack of passion shouldn't be an automatic disqualifier. You might grow into it.
Okay, so if chasing passion isn't the answer, or at least not the whole answer, what should we focus on instead? What should we cultivate?
The sources offer some practical alternative. The first is really about committing to improvement.
Like focusing on getting a little bit better each day.
Exactly. Small, incremental progress. Making that the goal, rather than waiting for inspiration to strike.
That focus on growth itself can become motivating, right? Seeing yourself get better.
It absolutely can. It provides tangible feedback, a sense of accomplishment, separate from how you feel on a given day.
Okay, commitment to improvement. What else?
Discipline, which sounds a bit old-fashioned, maybe.
But it's basically just showing up, isn't it?
It's showing up and doing the work, regardless of your feelings at that moment.
The sources really emphasize this. Successful people aren't always the most motivated.
They're often just the most disciplined. They take action even when they don't feel like it.
And discipline naturally leads to consistency.
Yes, that's the next point. The power of small, repeated efforts over time.
It's not about massive, heroic bursts of effort, necessarily.
Not usually. It's the compounding effect of just doing the thing regularly, consistently. That's what builds momentum and leads to big results eventually.
Okay, so improvement, discipline, consistency, anything else?
Finding meaning instead of just chasing excitement or that passionate feeling.
Look for purpose. Why does this work matter?
Exactly. Is it important? Does it contribute something valuable? Does it make a difference, even a small one?
That sense of meaning or purpose could be a much more stable motivator, couldn't it? Compared to the ups and downs of emotion.
Much more stable. It provides a why that can carry you through the tough times when passion might waver.
This actually leads to a really interesting way to reframe passion itself.
Yeah, the sources suggest shifting perspective. Instead of passion being something you find.
Like buried treasure.
Right.
No.
It's something you can build.
Build through what? Through the commitment and the skills.
Exactly. Through the process of getting good at something valuable through sticking with it.
That reminds me of the reference to Mike Rowe's TED Talk about the dirty jobs.
Yes. He talked about meeting people who genuinely loved jobs that most people wouldn't consider glamorous at all.
Why did they love them?
Not because the work itself was inherently passionate in the typical sense, but because they had become masters of their craft.
They developed real expertise.
They took immense pride in doing the work well, in their skills, in their reliability.
So the passion, or at least deep satisfaction and pride, came as a result of the commitment and mastery.
That's the idea. It was earned, built over time, not just found. That can be a real aha moment for people.
It really can. Okay, so this all sounds good conceptually, but how do we actually apply this? The sources gave some practical steps, right?
They did. Pretty actionable stuff. First step,
Not just something valuable.
choose a skill, a field, an area that has some kind of real-world value, something people need or appreciate. The examples given were things like programming, design, maybe a skilled trade.
Something where developing competence actually means something.
Right. Not just a fleeting hobby, unless that's your goal, but something with potential impact or utility.
Okay, pick something valuable, then what?
Commit. Like really commit for a significant period. The suggestion was at least a year.
A year? Why so long?
To give yourself enough time to get past the initial excitement, push through the inevitable dip in motivation, and actually start building real skill. Make a promise not to quit within that time frame.
Okay, like a non-negotiable commitment. That takes willpower.
It does. Next, track your progress.
Keep tabs on how you're doing.
Yeah. Pay attention to the small wins. Completing a tough project, learning a new technique, getting positive feedback.
Why is that important?
Because seeing that progress, however small, feeds your motivation. It reinforces the commitment. It proves the effort is paying off.
Right. It creates a positive feedback loop.
Exactly. And then, this is a subtle but important shift. Celebrate the discipline itself.
Not just the moments of excitement or inspiration.
Right. Take pride in the fact that you showed up,
Right.
that you did the work even when you didn't feel like it.
Yeah,
Shift your source of pride from the feeling to the action.
that's a powerful reframe. Acknowledge the effort, not just the outcome or the feeling.
Mm-hmm. And finally, maybe the most realistic piece of advice.
What's that?
Accept boredom.
Huh.
Okay.
Tell me more.
Just normalize it.
Yeah.
Understand that even important, valuable work will have boring phases. It's not always going to be thrilling.
And that's okay. Doesn't mean you're on the wrong path.
It's perfectly okay. It's part of the process for almost anything meaningful. The key is to push through those moments. Maintain consistency anyway. Don't let boredom derail your commitment.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So let's try and sum this up then. The big takeaway seems to be
That commitment, discipline, perseverance. These are probably much more reliable paths to success, whatever that means for you.
then just relying on finding and following that elusive, often fleeting feeling of passion.
Yeah. Constantly searching for passion can actually hold you back, lead to wasted time, missed opportunities.
Because you're always waiting for the perfect feeling instead of building something real.
Exactly. Real achievement, the sources argue, often comes down to that choice. The choice to stay committed, especially when things get tough, when others might give up.
It's about sticking with it.
Which leads to maybe a final thought for you listening.
Go on.
Think about an area in your life right now, maybe something you're pursuing or thinking about pursuing. Are you waiting for passion?
Or could you perhaps shift your focus?
What if you decided right now to focus on building commitment in that area instead? Really digging in, doing the work consistently.
Tracking your progress, celebrating the discipline.
Yeah. How might that sustained effort change things for you down the line? Your future self might really thank you for making that shift from searching for passion.
To building something through commitment, definitely something worth thinking about, whatever your goals are.